is controlling him. He's uncontrollable. We see that the actions of his anger are unchangeable. In verse 1 we read, later on, at the time of the wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and went to visit his wife. He said, I am going to my wife's room. What do you think he's got on his mind? I think he's wanting to consummate his marriage here, eh?
Yeah.
This is something that he hasn't done.
A goat? Say the least.
Why he wants a goat?
Pardon me?
With a
Or
goat?
why was he wanting to get a kid?
Well, that's just like us bringing a box of chocolates to our wife and, you know, I want to make up or bringing in some flowers. That was the custom of the day, okay? And that's something we're not used to, but
Here's a bouquet of goats.
yeah. But that's the way it was done back then. So it may sound kind of strange to us, right?
It was present.
Yeah, that was a, you know, yeah, you're right. And she probably go, a goat? You gotta be kidding me. You think you're coming in and you're going to give me a goat? No way. Well, yeah. Over time, Samson cools down. He begins to rethink his actions, okay? He returned to Timnah and comes with a peace offering. This is a peace offering to reclaim his bride. He brings a kid or a young goat. Obviously, he wants to pass things up. You know, this is what he has in mind. However, the last statement of verse 1 says, but her father would not let him go in. Her father would not let Samson see her. And they answered, why? Why is that?
Because he's given her to somebody else.
Yeah, you're right. So Samson's wife was given to the friend who had attended him at his wedding. That would be like your best man. I mean, the father-in-law are giving the best man
The wife.
the wife. You know, So he's ticked off.
Yeah, he should be.
Yeah. When Samson is stormed off mad, her father had given Samson's wife to somebody else. Man. Then we read in verse 2, he said, I was sure you thoroughly hated her, that I gave her to your friend. I'm thinking, yeah, what kind of friend is that? You know, you're calling me my friend, him my friend? I don't know about that. Well, when Samson runs off mad, her father assumed that he hated her, or he didn't want to have anything to do with her. Samson had left in anger. The time had passed, so he wants to pick up where he left off, thinking everything's okay.
Wrong.
The Philistine girl that he had been so infatuated with was now married to someone else. And again, though he never consummated the marriage, Samson thought he was legally married to the woman of Timnah. And therefore he took a gift, to him. And he must have been shocked or surprised to learn that she's married to somebody else, especially his best man. Or one of the companions that was with him during this feast. One of the commentaries puts this like this. There are several surprise bridegrooms in the Bible. Adam went to sleep a single man and woke up to learn happily that he was married to a woman. Think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah? Jacob woke up and discovered he was married to the wrong woman.
Right.
Boaz woke up and find his prospective woman lying at his feet on the threshing floor. He ends by saying, life is full of rude awakenings. And I'm sure Samson has got a rude awakening here now, hasn't he?
Yeah. That's my way.
His father-in-law, to be, I guess now, says in verse 2, isn't her younger sister more attractive? Take her instead. The father-in-law says, you think my first daughter is pretty, you ought to see her sister. He offers Samson his younger daughter, but that is not what Samson wants. You remember what Samson sees, he wants. What he likes, he wants. And he does everything he can to get it.
Oh, that's putting it mildly.
Now, for someone who operates according to what seems right in his eyes, this offer should be appealing to Samson. But no one could tell Samson how to find a wife. No one could tell him pretty much anything, eh?
Right.
Samson had acted a certain way in a moment of rage, and try as he may, he could not change the outcome of his actions. Look at what happened after he stormed off. The damage was done. It was irreversible and unchangeable. See, in a moment of anger, we can say something we later regret.
Yeah.
We can act in a certain way that later on we feel guilty about.
Oh,
We can do things that down the road we wish we had never done. However, we can never unsay what we say or undo what we've already done, can we?
Unfortunately, no.
We can do irreparable harm to our testimony when in a moment of rage we act a certain way. We can do irreparable harm to relationships by the things we do and say in a moment of anger. Someone has said, an angry man is again angry with himself when he returns to reason. We lose control in a moment of anger, but the harm that we cause can never be undone. This is what's happened with Samson. Now look at as we continue our study with Samson, at the revenge he sought. Once Samson realized what had happened, he desired his desire and sought nothing but revenge. He had to get even for what had been done to him. Verse 4 through 5 says, So he went out and caught 300 foxes and tied them tail to tail in pairs. He then fastened the torch to every pair of tails, lit the torches, and let the foxes loose in the standing grain of the Philistines. He burned up the shocks and standing grain together with the vineyards and olive groves.
A lot of damage.
Yeah, a lot of damage is right.
There's like a-
Another thing I can think about is animal rights activists, thinking, wow, this is pretty cruel and unusual punishment to animals, right?
Well, they are foxes.
Yeah. This verse says that Samson caught 300 foxes, and Warren Wiersbe in his commentary says the word foxes also means jackals. The foxes that Samson used may actually have been jackals, a closely related animal that moves in packs and can be more readily caught, according to him. After Samson caught these animals, he tied them in pairs, tail to tail. Then he tied torches to their tails and turned them loose in the cornfields of the Philistines. And he said, you can imagine these animals running like crazed and frightened creatures, running in circles, spreading fire throughout the corn. Soon the whole field would have been ablaze. The fire destroyed the sheaves of stacked grain, the grain that was ready to be harvested in the fields. The grapevines and the olive trees were ruined. As you just said, this was a costly and destructive fire. It damaged the economy of the Philistines. Can you imagine? A farmer losing all his crops.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's very costly.
That's not 3 acres yesterday.
Again,
Oh, boy.
one of the commentaries says, had Samson tied the torches to individual animals, and I wondered about this one, so I found this, and it says, had Samson tied the torches to individual animals, they each would have immediately run to their dens. But by putting two animals together and turning them loose, Samson could be fairly sure that their fear of the fire and their inability to maneuver easily would make them panic. Thus, they would run around frantically in the fields and ignite the grain. The fire then would spread into the vineyards and olive groves. It was a costly devastation. Yeah. I kind of wonder, I mean, why did he tie them together? I mean, that's what. I mean, while this was truly an amazing accomplishment, it was motivated by his pure desire to get even or to get revenge. Now, what is interesting, under the Old Testament law, burning crops was considered a serious offense. We read in Exodus chapter 22 and verse 6, if a fire breaks out and spreads into the thorn bushes so that it burns shocks of grain or standing grain or the whole field, the one who started the fire must make restitution. In other words, the person that started the fire needs to pay for the damages, right? But once again, Samson disregards God's law. We know he has a habit of doing that. He doesn't care what God thinks or what God says or what God cares about, does he? He only cares about what's right in his own eyes. What's right in his own eyes is I'm going to retaliate, I'm going to get even, I'm going to get revenge for what they've done to me. Samson has no desire to make restitution for the destruction that he caused the Philistines. The feelings of anger that Samson possessed were vented in letting loose the foxes into the field, right? Revenge is letting the foxes loose in the field. Revenge is getting even with those that have done us wrong. Revenge is making the one who hurt us for what they have done hurt as well. Now, verse 3, Samson said to them, this time I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I will really harm them. Samson intended to really harm these people, okay? He wanted them to pay for what they'd done. He claims that his behavior is justified. Okay? He speaks of being blameless. He is saying that he is absolved of all guilt for doing what he did. He says, I have a right to do this because they did it to me. Have you ever found people like that or know people like that? You ever heard people say, well, I'm not going to let that person run over me? Huh? Well, it's the same principle here. We may make ourselves feel better about the wrong we do, but wrong is always wrong. It doesn't matter how we spin it or seek to justify what we do. As we saw in the beginning of this sermon, vengeance is never our right. Vengeance belongs to God and God alone, doesn't it? Last of all, we see the results that Samson suffered. When someone seeks revenge, they never escape without personal consequences. Samson got revenge, but it was not without consequences. First of all, we see a defilement of his life. The Bible says in Leviticus chapter 11, verse 27, of all the animals that walk on all fours, those that walk on their paws are unclean for you. Whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean till evening. The law of God declared that any animal that walked on his paws was unclean. They were not to be eaten, and especially their carcasses were not to be touched. And foxes or jackals would have fit into this category. The instrument that Samson used for revenge against the Philistines. Samson had defiled himself in many ways, and as we have seen before, and once again he comes in contact with something that he's not supposed to be coming in contact with. Samson is living as a Nazarite, or he's supposed to be living as a Nazarite. And that means he was consecrated to God, devoted to God. He was not to partake of certain things, not to do certain things, and one of them was to deal with unclean animals or carcasses, and this is what